Hello everyone, Amanda here with Eclectic Scribbles. I'm back to you today with a brand new video. I'm really excited about this one because I'm trying out a new notebook today. So I'm going to set this aside. This is one of my Scribbles That Matter Pros with some blank space in the back. But here is what I am really excited about. I ordered a book this past weekend from Archer and Olive. It is supposed to be very nice, very thick paper, and I am really excited to give it a try. All right, so let's get that out of this box here. I got the Archer and Olive dot grid notebook. It is 160 dot grid pages with 160 GSM ultra thick paper. It says no ghosting or bleeding, perfect for markers, fountain pens, and even paint. And that is why I got it. So they had just restocked when I bought this, but they still didn't have the one that I wanted, which is the one with the little moon on it. But I went as close as I could to it, and I got the one with the little star. The outside decoration doesn't matter quite as much to me. They also have an option for I think like $5 more to do the silver on the edges of books. But if you've seen my journal and the way that I use like Faber-Castell gelatos and things like that in it, the pages are going to get colored anyway, so I think it would cover up the silver edging. So I didn't go for that option. But yeah, we're going to open this bad boy up. I'm going to give you my first impressions on the notebook itself, the features that I find in it, and then we're going to go into a pen test. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to move these pens out of the way. This is what we're going to be using to test the paper. This is a cloth-covered notebook. It is hardcover. The elastic band feels pretty tight and secure on here. It does come with an elastic pin loop over here on the side. Now let's open it up and see what we've got here. Alright, we've got really white paper in here. That's very nice. So you've got this title page, and then we move straight into the first page. I will tell you that these pages are not numbered, but the paper does feel very thick in comparison to other things. It also feels very smooth. Now what I'm going to tell you, I am not 100% sure that this paper is coated. It doesn't feel coated. It's a little hard to describe what coated paper feels like if you've never really felt it, but I'm going to sort of grab my Scribbles That Matter, flip to an open page here. It does feel very smooth though. So it is a lot wider in comparison to the Scribbles That Matter, and that is actually sort of a bonus for me, because the reason I went with Scribbles That Matter over the Leuchtturm was because the Leuchtturm is very creamy, the paper color, whereas this was a little bit more ivory. And I almost feel like I might feel a little bit of a tooth to the Scribbles That Matter paper over the slickness and the feel of the, I'm over here molesting my paper, but it's okay. Over the feel of this. So maybe it is coated. I'm not 100% sure, so we're going to sort of go with it. And you'll also notice that the pages are not numbered. That's not a real feature that I use a lot. I mean, it doesn't have an index. You would have to make your own if that's something that you use. It is not something that I use, so I'm not going to miss the page numbers. It has, let's find our bookmarks in here. It has 2 ribbon bookmarks in it. I like to say that I use the ribbon bookmarks, but I really don't. They're just sort of flapping around in my journal as is, and when I do put them in there, I forget to use them. So, but it does have 2. They feel fairly sturdy in the binding, so it is a lay flat notebook. I will go ahead and tell you that. I'm not having to work these pages at all, really, in order to get this book to lay flat. That is a excellent feature as well. It's just gonna pop right open for you. Like I said, it's 160 pages. The pages feel very thick. They do feel very smooth, and you got your pocket in the back. So outside of the few little indexy type pages and things like that, there's not too much of a difference. The reason that I haven't bought one of these before was the page count, and I'm overlooking that now just because of the thickness of the paper. So for $30, which is how much I paid for this, I would like to see a 200 page count. I really would. 200 would be a great page count for the price. But I am willing to overlook that and test this paper because of the thickness. So we're going to see how that works out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in this very back page here. I am going to do a quick pen test with the pens that I have over here, which are the common sort of pens. And now that I'm in my studio, I grabbed a cheapo fountain pen from Manuscript out here. I've got a twin tone, Staedtler, water brush for my Prima watercolors to test the watercolor in it. Got another brush pen from the fountain pen collection, a Kelly Creates, a Tombow, a dual brush pen, Faber-Castell, and Micron. So we're just going to throw these into the back here and do a very quick pen test. I will see you back here in just a minute. All right, y'all, so those are the pens that I am going to test and watercolors in this journal. I have not flipped this page over yet, so really quickly, I will say that the ink sits on the top of the page just a little bit. You have to give it a couple of seconds for really wet ink to dry or it will smudge. I sort of purposely tried to smudge most of this. When this went down real dark, it smudged after a second, but a couple of seconds later it didn't. So that's what I was testing with these smudge tests. I also, when I blocked in these colors here, for some of the inks that I know are prone to bleed in other papers, I went in really heavily and as if you would sort of with more than one layer or trying to blend or anything like that without actually blending here. But I went in really thick with some of these inks. So we've got the Tombow hard tip, we've got a dual brush pen, Kelly Creates, Faber-Castell, Staedtler, fountain pen from Manuscripts, so just basic fountain pen here and basic ink. I don't use a lot of fountain pens, but I know that's something that's been lacking from a lot of these pen test pages. So, and this came in the same package. I thought that this was kind of a neat idea. You switch the caps out and you can use different brushes. So if you want to see a review on what I'm talking about for this, I will do a pen test and a review on this with the different tips that you can switch out in this script. Not script. I'm going to find the word in a second. Switch tip pen for fountain pens. Okay. Anyway, so that's what the orange one is. The orange one is the brush tip nib in this, but it should still be like fountain pen ink. All right, then we've got the watercolors down here, quick twin tone up here. I will say that it was very smooth to write on this paper. That was one of the complaints that I had with the Limon journal that I wrote is when I switched back and forth to my challenges when I was doing those in October. In the Limon journal, I could start to feel the tooth, and I'm going to go do that in just a second. I'm going to go write something in my Scribbles That Matter, and then I'm going to come back and write it here as well and tell you if I feel a difference, because that's not something that I usually do, but that is where I noticed the difference before. All right, so now we are going to flip this over and we are going to see how this did. Oh, real quick, I will say that the water did sit on top of these pages a little bit too. I tried to use sort of an excess amount of water, so I did go in and dry that with my heat gun. But the page is holding up really nicely on this side. I'm not seeing any feathering or anything of the paper or the textures like that. So that is a good thing in my opinion. But this is all dry now. Let's see what happens. Okay, there's nothing back here. There's nothing back here. Like, you can barely even tell that the page has water on the other side, which is generally really, really evident. You can feel it, but you can barely see it. I don't even know if that's going to show up on camera. Like, it barely warped the page, and I don't know how well you saw that, but I put quite a bit of water on that. I'm definitely going to have to test that further. But yeah, the page didn't like buckle at all. But again, these are really super thick pages. I mean, you can see this page is standing up by itself. I mean, it's connected to this page and that's helping it. But this is a really, really thick paper. But there is nothing back here. There is no ghosting. There is no ghosting. There's no ghosting and there's no bleeding and there's nothing back here. Oh, and the pages are super white. I'm kind of loving this book right now. All right, so what I'm going to do real quick is do this other test. I felt it the most when I used my everyday pens, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go write something really quickly with these 3 pens. I'm going to put my Scribbles That Matter up here, and then I'm going to write it over here too and see if I can feel any tooth to the page or any kind of difference that might damage my tips later. All right, so let's open this bad boy up. Okay, so I can go ahead and tell you that I cannot feel a difference. This is really, really smooth, and that's why I love this paper so much. But this is really, really smooth. I'm not noticing when I go back and forth any kind of actual textural differences in the paper. And even coming out here with the dual brush pen, there's no texture in this line. And that's why I pulled out my Limon journal, because you can almost see the tooth to this page underneath the larger strokes of this, and you can see the yellowness of this paper. I mean, if you weren't switching back and forth, you probably really would not notice it. So this is a really good notebook, and I actually really like it. I'm going to continue to use it for lettering and things like that. But this paper matches up really, really nicely. I'm going to do a really thick stroke and just see if I can see. There's nothing there. It's a smooth page. It really is. I give it a second to dry because it's a little bit more prone to smudging than the other pages, and the water sits on top of it a little bit extra, but it's a great paper. It really is. I am digging this notebook. I am excited to sort of dive into it. This might just be the 2019 journal. And real quick, I wanted to show you, because I haven't done the fountain pens in a lot of things. So this is sort of the comparison. That orange came through and even started to bleed in the Scribbles That Matter. The fountain pen ghosted a little bit, but it didn't bleed or anything. So if that gives you some indication on the ghosting of these pens, you can see the ghosting is obvious in something like the Scribbles That Matter paper. And the bleed through happens when you start to go over things more than once. But this is just, it's very thick. It's very nice. I am loving it. And the whiteness of this page is another huge selling point for me. I mean, it really is. So, I mean, it's just white paper. And that was something else that I had really, really been looking for a long time. I love white paper. So the things that this notebook are missing are sort of the page numbers, the index pages, a dedicated pen test page in the back. And that's about it. There's nothing else that I can think of off the top of my head that this notebook does not have. It's got 160 pages, whereas the Scribbles That Matter is 200 pages, but it's really going to come down to whether or not you can tolerate the ghosting and how much actual like mixed media you use in your journal. If you're not a big watercolor person, then this might not be a big issue for me, but it is I like having an artistic bullet journal. It is therapeutic for me. It makes me happy to sit down and make things pretty, and it makes me more productive when I'm looking at something pretty and I'm all kinds of organized inside. So this makes me happy and makes me more productive. So this is something that I've definitely been looking for. I've got to give this notebook like 2 thumbs up. I don't use the index, so it's not really a downfall for me that the pages aren't numbered. I do not use it. I cover it up with inks and gelatos and everything else. So there's nothing that I needed in the front of this book. Now, instead of having to worry about an index that is going to be blank and empty, I can move straight into like a title page and then like future log and things like that. So there's nothing else that I can find negative about this book. The cloth cover here may pick up a little bit of dirt. It's picking up little bits of dust and stuff off of my hands and off of my table, which is not too big of a deal because I will throw a cover on this most likely anyway. But the actual thickness of the cover itself is really nice as well. It's not going to bend. It shouldn't buckle. It feels very, very sturdy. All right, y'all. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. I am a little bit overjoyed about this notebook, and this is going to be the notebook that I think I'm setting up for 2019, which I will take you along with me during that setup in the weekly videos. All right, I will see you again next time. Subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a big thumbs up if you found it at all helpful. Until next time, happy journaling, everyone. Bye.